So I do not know what's going on in the ATP. I just don't have the bandwidth. So, wishing them luck.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Body Serve. I'm Jonathan.
I'm James.
We are through Rome. The Rome Open is over. It was a unique experience because it was peppered with a bit of papal spice.
R.I.P. Papa Francesco. We had a new papal conclave. St. Peter's is, of course, a walkable distance from the Foro Italico. We've done it, in fact.
You said St. Peter. We were in St. Paul last weekend
for
a family wedding.
Since you last heard from us, we were in Minnesota.
That's where I saw the white smoke. I saw the white smoke on the plane. Somebody was watching news on the back of the seat in front of them, and I saw the white smoke.
Yes, thanks to the free Wi-Fi on Air Canada, which is very rare.
It's a new initiative for North American flights. It's free now.
Okay.
Because you hate Air Canada, and it pains you to say anything positive about them.
Normally, yes, but the flights were very pleasant. The Twin Cities, lovely place. It was like 90 degrees in early May there.
We will have hit 70 degrees maybe twice this entire month of May.
Oh, in
By
Toronto.
the time it's done, yeah. The ATP saw the return of its Lord and Savior, Sinner-in-Chief, Jannik Sinner.
He got to meet the Pope Leo.
This return and fetting and embrace was quite the spectacle.
I mean, it did kind of make Maria's return look like the Spanish Inquisition. So I remember that we had recorded this episode and that we'd interviewed Renee Denfeld, who was there on site. And I thought I talked to Renee, but it was only you when I went back and listened. And we were interested in what it was like, of course, being on site in Stuttgart, a tournament that started while Maria was already serving her suspension. And as soon as she could return, she was given a court assignment on that Wednesday, remember? And I just kind of wanted to know, these two have a history. They're two of the highest profile doping suspensions in the sport's history. I kind of wanted to know how they were treated, if there was any comparison. And there are obviously a lot of differences in the cases themselves. Maria's was a lot more serious. There was an element which continues to this day that she could have been deceitful, and that was part of the reason that she was suspended for longer. She removed meldonium from her doping control forms, and that she was negligent in a way that they didn't find Sinner to be.
Okay, what's your point in saying all this?
At the time, it was interesting because some elements of the press, especially the British press, were really, really rough. And, they took it as this kind of moral crusade, the way that they covered that. And as somebody who was not a fan of Maria, I felt that the tennis powers that be in general were too easy on her. With the wild cards, the return midweek during Stuttgart, and the overall celebration of her return felt weird because of the nature of her absence. Looking back, I would probably be a little bit lighter in retrospect. With Sinner this week, it was kind of unironically celebratory. Like there was no shame or abashedness about celebrating his return as if it were just a brief injury layoff.
What's hovering over all this? Set aside the actual cases. I find it instructive as to how men in particular, in the press rooms, in the press corps, covering tennis, period, speak to and speak about men versus women. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen time and again that it's so buddy-buddy when it comes to talking to the men and about the men in the actual press room. But any chance that there is to be paternalistic and condescending and talk down to and scold a woman, they will take it.
Yeah. Back then there was an element of Maria getting what she deserved, this opportunity to put her in her place.
And the ugly carpet was such an unapologetic, terrible thing to say that she must be put in her place.
Right. I said on the episode back in 2017 that the way that I was reading the situation was informed by my general dislike for Maria. And I was able to admit that, right? It colors the way that I viewed it. A lot of people didn't like her. And a lot of her colleagues on tour saw this opportunity to draw blood, and they were like, yes, I cannot stand this woman. So we saw that happen. Then we saw this scorched earth response by her agent, Max Eisenbud, saying insulting things about other players who had come after her. And it was a whole mess, right? People just loved picking at Maria because of who she was and because
she could take it as well.
Well, she could take it. And it was, I guess, fun to sort of, bring her down a notch. With Jannik, of course, the cases are very different. There was really kind of no element. There was no, flogging period, right? There was no, okay, you've got to take your licks and go through the punishments from the press or anything. That was kind of non-existent.
It was only Nick Kyrgios. Really?
Right. the press, Nick Kyrgios. And there was also no risk that he would need wildcards, right? So you've maintained your number one ranking. There's no controversy over which tournaments are going to let you in and which aren't. You come back to the status quo. Almost nothing has changed in the 3 months. Let's
be real. The ATP needs him desperately at this point.
Yeah.
Because we saw what the absence wrought on men's tennis.
Right.
Or brought out of men's tennis.
The other element is culturally, men's tennis players don't treat each other like that.
No.
Men's tennis players are very buddy-buddy. I mean, Carlos Alcaraz went out of his way to say how much he respects Jannik and he's so happy to have him back. And that's just who he is. Carlos, loves Jannik Sinner, unequivocally, even before all this. But men's tennis players, for the most part, didn't take the opportunity to criticize Jannik as much as they were criticizing the system.
They just don't speak ill of each other, period.
No.
Unless there's some tussle on court. Some little drama. Carlos was asked in press if he reached out to Jannik during his suspension. Apparently Jannik said that he was surprised by the players who did and those who didn't reach out to him during that time. And so Carlos, in his response to me, looked like in Catch 'Em Fred. He was like, huh? What? No, I didn't mean anything by it. No, what?
Mm-hmm. Well, he first had to admit that he did not call him.
He was like, I was just busy, man.
Right. Well, are you saying that as a qualifier to me saying Carlos loves Jannik?
Well, I would think if it went that deep, there may have been a text or something. I don't know. But ultimately, I don't care and it's not my business.
Yeah.
Nor should it really have been brought up in that way in the press conference. In my opinion. It was weird. Anyway, Sinner gets to return to tour at his home tournament in Rome. And we see him meeting Papaleo. We see him beating people all over the place. Issuing and receiving bakery products. He gets to the final where he plays Carlos Alcaraz. And I honestly was not here for this kind of full redemption narrative. This did not need to happen this week. Tennis would not have benefited from it, in my opinion, for him to come back on his worst surface and do this right away. His matches in the second round where he started, he beat Mariano Navone straight sets. He beat De Jong in straight sets. Then in the round of 16, Cerundolo 7-6, 6-3. A good win there. Nothing earth-shattering. That didn't totally... It wasn't a surprising win, but a good win nonetheless. Then the one that was a real stinker. If you are a fan of Casper Ruud, what the hell do you make of this?
Well, and where do you even go from here?
On clay, on Roman clay, losing to Jannik Sinner 6-love, 6-1. Disaster. He was befuddled. He didn't know what had hit him. He's sitting there in his chair afterwards, shrugging. I don't know. Oh, what do you do?
Yeah. Call me a hater, but I don't ever like that response from a player. Just sort of laughing it off.
I mean, I kind of feel like I would do that. What the hell are you going to do?
I guess. I get it.
And then in the semi-final, Tommy Paul speeds to a 6-1 lead. Then it looks like he's going to get double bageled, ends up losing 6-love, 6-3. What was clear at this point throughout the tournament is that Jannik was playing very well in spurts, but was still rusty. And that was on full display in the final, especially when Carlos dragged him all over that court in the second set. That was impressive.
Yeah. The first set, extremely tight, 71 minutes. It wasn't particularly exciting. It wasn't that interesting. But we get to 5-6, Carlos is serving, and he goes down 15-40. 2 set points for Jannik. And Carlos said after the match that he feels this was probably the best match tactically he's ever played. And I can see that, because a lot of what is exciting about Carlos is also what's frustrating about Carlos. That he doesn't always use his head out there, that sometimes he just seems to forget how tennis works, makes bad decisions, can showboat, try to have too much fun. And that's what he wasn't doing in this match. But at those set points, those were both lost by Sinner unforced errors. Then we get to the tiebreak. Carlos goes up 3-0, and it's a very tight tiebreak until he's able to kind of steady himself and finish the set with an incredible backhand inside-out drop shot, which was a bit unconventional. But for the most part, he played the set pretty within himself, right? With a lot of shape. He wasn't trying to get into these long, punishing rallies that Jannik would have the upper hand in. But Jannik was clearly, I mean, despite how well Carlos played, Jannik was definitely rusty. He clearly doesn't have the match practice, and he was missing things that he won't be missing in a few weeks.
Carlos has now won their last 4 matchups. Since the start of 2024, Sinner is 85-3 against the rest of the tour, but 0-4 against Alcaraz.
And since yesterday, a number of people have started to draw this Fedal comparison, that one player is clearly the best player in the world, but they're having a problem against their chief rival.
So Carlos is Rafa in this situation.
I think we don't have enough sample size at this point, right? They only played 3 times last year. Carlos won all 3. He leads the head-to-head 7-4, but there's just so much more to come in this rivalry. He obviously has the upper hand on clay at the moment.
Jannik had been on a 26-match win streak dating back to October of last year, and this was Carlos's 19th title of his career, all but 2 of them coming above the ATP 250 level. Now, the thing about this men's tournament that just tickled me so was that guy, and what he said, and what ended up happening to him. After one of his opening matches, he was asked on court, "You've had a couple of early exits in the Masters this year, so how nice is it to get one under your belt here?" That's a pretty accurate question. No lies were detected in that question. And so, of course, because he's the most thin-skinned loser in the game, he says, quote, "I mean, I did, but I won a tournament 2 weeks ago. I don't really like to think about it. It's your job thinking about stupid questions."
Maybe you should think about it more.
Now, he's referring to this title, one of those tiny little titles that he goes and vultures.
It was Munich. Right?
Munich. And what he's been asked about are the big tournaments, the Masters 1000s and above, at which he has objectively stunk in recent history. And what did he do? He went and he crashed out at this tournament, keeping that record intact.
I mean, this one was to Musetti, so it wasn't like your typical first round loss that he's had recently.
Okay, he made the quarterfinal and he lost in straight sets to Musetti. And then after that, all he could do was complain about the balls in the press conference. He takes zero accountability for anything. Ever in his life, it seems.
Yeah. In this one, he said it's impossible to hit winners, that Lorenzo depends a lot on the mistakes from his opponents, and that I'm still somebody who tries to play aggressive. First of all, is that true?
He's a pusher. He's a known pusher.
Aside from the serve, I wouldn't really call his game style aggressive. And also, hasn't he won Rome twice? What is he complaining about?
It's the level of delusion that this man lives in and with.
So Lorenzo bites back and says he does the same thing too. We played on other surfaces and the result was the same. Okay. Did you see that video of... It was just this candid moment. Carlos is going off to watch the Real Madrid-Barcelona game, I think.
Yes.
And
match. In football, it's called matches.
Sure. We're lucky I got the teams right. And it's during the tournament, and Zverev... that guy says something like, he's just incredulous that, oh, you're going to watch the game, whatever. And it's the most humdrum kind of sports dude interaction, right? You just say, oh, haha, Carlos going to watch the game. We've seen this a million times with Rafa. And he manages to make it the most strange, awkward, scolding interaction. It's like he is incapable of a human moment with these guys. It's just so uncomfortable to watch.
They clearly have no problem. They have no problem.
No, they don't have a problem.
It's not weird to them. It's not awkward. Perhaps we're projecting our own lens onto it and deducing things that aren't there. But they have no issue with him.
No, they don't. I'm just saying he seemed incapable of a natural social interaction in that moment. And Carlos was just like, ha ha ha, okay, bye.
We got a lot of feedback questions from the last episode when we kind of said that we were lukewarm towards Musetti. And honestly, I'd even forgotten a little bit why. I knew there was a reason why, but I'd forgotten. And then we were prompted on Blue Sky, maybe, this week, saying, it seems like you are the only ones who remember. And I was like, do I remember?
or the only one who covered it, or
yeah. And so that jogged my memory. And let us not forget about the F asterisk 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 incident with Musetti, whereby a couple of years ago at this point, maybe, he was on Instagram with somebody in his camp or a friend, and he did a little caption on the photo with that.
Right. An F with 5 stars.
Yeah. And so when pressed about it, he said he meant family. But what, at a minimum, he intended to do was have us believe that this joke could be a homophobic slur. Because otherwise, why would you do it? You would just say family. This is my family. This is my bro, my brewski, my homie, whatever, you know? But he wanted to swim in those waters.
Also, why wouldn't it mean familia, which has more letters?
Well,
A lot of people suspected he was playing with the Italian F slur, which has the same number of letters, starts with the same letter, a variation of which was used not once but twice by Pope Francis not long ago. Do you remember that?
oh, yes.
Yeah. So I had actually forgotten about this, and the person who reached out to us on Blue Sky, or I guess just tagged us, said he couldn't find anything about it on Google. I couldn't find anything. A number of results had been delisted for whatever reason. But to be fair, I went through our agendas too, and I couldn't find... I have no idea which episode we even covered this on. It was as if it never happened.
Well, maybe you need to go back and find out, and then alter the timestamps.
Right. But I've looked back on Twitter and I've seen... So you know Twitter destroyed their search function. Right, it's terrible. But I did find some people referencing Musetti and homophobic. But they didn't... There was no primary source.
Well, what time period was that?
Oh, I'll go back and look. Yeah. But it didn't even indicate that it was fresh information. You know, so that I wasn't sure about the time frame.
So that's what happened. And that's why I'm still lukewarm to this dude.
Yes. Every variation of the search on Google just brought up Holger's homophobic comment. Poor guy.
Still there.
Why does his endure? But
which is also why I'm lukewarm to him too.
Right.
I know you are ready to stand.
Well, and his was actually...
love Holger's game.
And it was verifiable. And it was in public, and it was out loud. You know, there was no ambiguity about that.
Listen, until they start putting rainbows on their shoots like Bautista Agut, or like say something very positively affirming to the communities, then you're just going to be at a distance.
Oh, another person who said that same exact word, Italian 6 letters, Fabio Fognini, lost in the first round of French Open qualifying. Too bad.
His final...
So sad.
Slam. Arrivederci.
Oh, I'll believe that when I see it.
Lorenzo also just announced that baby number 2 is on the way, which is also another thing, quite frankly, that keeps him at a distance for me. These straight men who have children too young, like, it's weird to me. I find it weird. This is why I couldn't get into Taylor Fritz for so long. I found it weird.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me. When I was listening back to that episode with Renee, before you got into the interview, you were talking about Karen Khachanov and being into his thighs.
Really?
Yeah. Speaking of young dads.
Yes, that's another one.
Now you really don't like Karen, I don't even think you find him attractive.
No, but it's a consistent thing for me. Fritz, Khachanov, Musetti. That's the
Okay.
That's the commonality there. Now, had Jannik won his match in the finals, it would have meant that it would truly have been an Italian extravaganza in Rome this year.
He would have been the first since the great Adriano Panatta, who won it in the 70s. As it turns out, Jasmine Paolini becomes the first Italian woman to win the Italian Open in 40 years, since Raffaella Reggi won in 1985. The women actually played in Taranto that year, and the draw was only 16 players, which was surprising to me because this has always been a very prestigious clay tournament. Chris Evert, I think, won it 5 times.
Before that, you have to go all the way back to 1931, the second year of the tournament, to find an Italian woman winning. This win for Jasmine Paolini, I felt like it was a big F you to me personally, because I've been droning on for the past few weeks about how difficult it'll be for Jasmine to remain in the top 10, to remain at the top of the women's game, because of her Channel Slam finals points that she has to defend in the upcoming months. And as it turns out now, she could probably lose first round of both those tournaments and still be top 10. Or very close to it.
Yeah, she has gone far in giving herself some padding in case she doesn't reach the final. But at this point, who's to say she doesn't reach the final of Roland Garros?
At this tournament, she beat Lulu Sun, Ons Jabeur, Ostapenko, Diana Schneider, Peyton Stearns, and then Coco Gauff in the final.
Jasmine jumps back to number 4 with this win, which means something pretty seismic for another player in the draw, that Iga Swiatek will be seeded 5th at Roland Garros, a tournament she's won 4 times, which of course means that she will meet a player in the top 4 in the quarterfinal stage.
She could. She'd be slated to.
Sure.
Projected to. But draws fall apart.
Yeah.
For Coco, it was the second straight Masters 1000 final. If you recall, up until Stuttgart, she'd had a pretty bad year. And even though she's now had back-to-back Masters 1000s finals, she's still in a place where damned if you do, damned if you don't, because people, including a lot of her supporters, are still out here just incensed that she's not able to win these matches at the final hurdle.
Yeah. You know at this point how Coco plays, right? If you've been a fan for all these years, she's not a pristine tennis player. She's never going to give you Federer out there. So it takes some resilience to be a Coco Gauff fan, even sometimes when she wins.
Would you rather her still be losing in the 4th round of these tournaments to the Magdalenettes of the world? No disrespect to Magdalenette.
Wow.
But what we've seen instead of the last couple of weeks is that she's scored wins over Zheng Qinwen, twice over Mira Andreeva. She's beaten Emma Raducanu, who's playing really well right now. She beat Magdalenette. She also beat Mboko, who is one of the hottest young players on tour in the first round of this tournament. And then the previous tournament in Madrid, where she made the final as well, she blitzed Swiatek 6-1, 6-1, beat Belinda Bencic, Yastremska. That's where she also beat Andreeva as well, for the first of back-to-back tournaments. It's not like she's showing up and having these cakewalk draws to the final and then losing to a better player. She's having seriously good wins, just unable to clear the final hurdle.
Yeah.
It's fine. I promise you, it's fine. Coco Gauff may never be in the vicinity of a Serena Williams. If that's your expectation, then that's on you, boo.
Yeah.
But also, even if she isn't, that too is fine.
Better than fine, even, right?
It is so difficult to perform at the level of a Sabalenka right now, who is dominating the tour, who also lost this week to Zheng Qinwen. And then Coco beat her. So we're just not seeing the full-on dominance. And even when we do, it's like one player, you know?
Right.
This is what happens with parity on the WTA. It's just so difficult for one person to week after week dominate.
I wondered for a second why Magdalenette caught a stray from you, but you explained it. Coco echoed Medvedev, or paraphrased him, saying, yeah, it's disappointing to lose another final, but I'd rather be losing in finals than in first rounds. Fair enough, right? The scrutiny is going to be tougher when you're on bigger stages, And when you're losing matches, people claim you should win. But again, Jasmine is a very high-quality player. She made the Roland Garros final last year. I know a lot of people wanted to say it was a fluke, and then she went and stumbled into the Wimbledon final as well.
And then she's stumbling into more big results this year.
Right.
The disrespect on this woman's name is crazy. When all she's doing is out there having a good time, win or lose.
Damn, I don't get why people dislike her so much.
Which is fine. Liking a tennis player and disliking a tennis player is not a rational thing.
But you don't have to be disrespectful about it. She hasn't really done anything.
Well.
Anyway.
I'm just saying that's a losing argument to get into.
Yeah, of course.
People dislike people for whatever reason. It's the, like you said, the being nasty about it publicly. It's just weird to me.
Because it's fun to be mean.
It's a weird flex. Anyway.
I only try to be mean about people who deserve it. That's what a great get-out-of-jail-free card that would be.
Right, but then,
some people don't always deserve it.
Well, for some people, men never deserve it. So, this was Jasmine's best result of the year. Previously, she had been to the semifinals in Miami and Stuttgart. She also is the doubles champion in Rome. She swept the board this is one reason why you may not like Jasmine Paolini. This partnership with Sister Sarah.
I mean, Sarah Irani, we've taken our fair share of digs at the woman, but I mean, this is like the Iron Woman of tennis at this moment. And so many Italian women tennis players either peak at a later age or manage to keep such a high level at an advanced age. I mean, Jasmine Paolini didn't break out until she was 28 years old. She's 29 now. Sarah Irani is well past retirement age, winning gold medals in doubles, repeating as the Italian Open champion in doubles.
Flavia won her US Open in her 30s.
Right. So this team repeats as the doubles champion. This year, Jasmine wins both singles and doubles. They beat Kudermetova Mertens, which is a team they lost to decisively in Madrid. And on the way to this doubles title, Paolini beat Goff for the first time this week, beating Goff and Ayala, that team that got a lot of attention, obviously.
Iga. Every recording, every time we sit down, it seems like there's something to say about Iga. The things that never go away this year. Iga's form, Coco's serve and forehand. It's just, you could wash, rinse, repeat for these two topics every single week. Where are we this week with Iga Swiatek? The bottom of the barrel, really, compared to the trajectory. It's sinking.
Yeah, this is... Well, you could argue that Ayala was a worse loss.
But there hasn't been a course correction.
Right, not a significant one.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I am a little surprised at a loss to Danielle Collins at this moment in Danielle Collins' career.
She was
just didn't see... Well,
she was the queen of spring last year on clay courts.
But not the queen of this spring.
But tactically, a cannon of a backhand down the line against Iga Swiatek. This is the playbook. Iga's serve is vulnerable. These women are teeing off on the serve. They're hitting the backhand down the line. It's a very predictable playbook. You've said for months now that Iga has not come up with a plan B. Right. That she has her plan A, and that's what she's trying to do over and over again, and she hasn't adjusted. And it seems to be the case still.
It almost seemed like this clay season, everyone was kind of waiting and hoping that, okay, now this is real. Now we're on real clay. Now Iga's going to bring it. Here we are. We are in Rome. She can lose here, but it's different. The conditions are closer to Paris. This could have been a fluky loss. This could have been running into streaky Danielle Collins. And I should have known, of course, Danielle Collins, this is the story of her entire career, right? She can summon this kind of form out of nowhere.
We'll talk more about this on the French Open preview episode, which is this weekend.
Yeah, because, 3 of the 4 slams, the French Open starts on Sunday, so we have to be extra early.
In Rome, there were also good weeks for a bunch of players, most notably for Peyton Stearns, one of the young American women who have been clawing up the WTA ladder.
Yeah, it feels like we've been building to this one for a while.
She makes the semifinals, along the way beats Brancaccio, Kalinskaya, Madison Keys, Naomi Osaka, and Elina Svitolina. That's a very good week's work.
Yeah.
Qin Wen took out Sabalenka for the first time. Previously, she'd lost all 6 matches against her. Big win. I feel like that could have huge ramifications for the tour going forward.
Well, she kind of needed that. And tussled with Coco again. They played twice. Coco's won both, but they were very tough matches both times.
Messy matches.
Yes.
Bianca Andreescu. She's back. Back again. Making the 4th round, she beat Vekic and Rybakina. She starts her Roland Garros qualifying with a double bagel win today.
Yeah, and she was the very first completed match at this year's French Open.
Do you know who else won in the first round of French Open qualifying today?
I do. I know a few of... I don't know who you're talking about, but...
Bernard Tomic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Imagine.
Ranked 230-something. He got into qualifying after somebody had to pull out. And here he is into the second round of qualifying. Naomi Osaka made the 4th round. Clara Towson also made the 4th round, as well as Emma Raducanu, who beat who today in Strasbourg?
Oh, okay, you don't have to rub it in. She beat the Australian #1, Dasha Kazatkina.
I wasn't trying to rub it in. I was just trying to see if you're paying attention,
okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
But
you don't think I get Google alerts?
But what you're really excited about for this upcoming French Open is the return of your queen.
Who?
Barbie K.
Oh,
She's
yes. Back. Barbie is back. She has been in outer darkness for the entire season. She hasn't played since the WTA finals. Last year, you might remember that she was dealing with a pretty bad back injury for much of the season. She played through it. She won Wimbledon while kind of managing the pain. But she decided at the end of last season, I'm not going to come back to the game until I can play pain-free. Because it was bad. Then she was training. She got a virus. It slowed down her training. But she's back in Strasbourg. Lost her first round to who? Magdalene. And that name has come up several times already.
I feel like she's done this a lot to people we like. Right. Babs also lost in doubles alongside Noskova in the first round. Mm-hmm. So she had 2 matches right off the bat, lost both of them. She can go get some more practice and then...
Yep, she's on the entry list for Paris. She just wanted to be back for Roland Garros.
We'll get to a few et ceteras before we wrap up this episode. We got this notification, this piece of news that after 6 months, who knew it was that long? Did you know it was that long?
Well, yeah. It started in January.
Okay. Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray have ended their coaching partnership.
Okay.
What was the point of that?
That was my reaction. Why did we do that?
Djokovic looks to be in a whole lot of bother at this stage of his career. He just took a wild card into Geneva ahead of the French Open. Some are being snarky that he's trying to vulture his 100th career title because it won't come at one of the bigger tournaments.
I make no predictions like that because he always surprises me in the worst way.
He lost his first matches in Monte Carlo, Madrid, and then he skipped Rome to now play Geneva ahead of the French Open. Also playing ahead of the French Open, that guy and Taylor Fritz, both playing Hamburg this week.
A few of the other notable results in Roland Garros qualifying, which started today, Monday. It's a holiday here in Canada, but I know in the US, y'all's holiday is next week. We've got the 38-year-old Varvara Lepchenko winning her opener in qualifying. She has played qualifying in the last 4 slams, made it into the US Open main draw, and won a match. The reason her name always jumps out to me is that, of course, she is a 2-time doping offender. The first one was back when meldonium first became illegal. She went away for that. And then,
where did she go?
Well,
where was she put? Alcatraz?
Right. And then she tested positive again for a different banned substance. She was a client of Howard Jacobs, the preeminent doping attorney. Sports attorney, I should say. But a very important lawyer in the world of anti-doping. And she came back from her second suspension in 2023.
Does she play left-handed or right-handed?
Well, you're asking, so I assume it's left. I assume it's exceptional, you know.
For new listeners to the show, this is something that this gentleman to the left of me struggles with notoriously.
Mm-hmm. The Canadians, Stakusic and Branston, both win their first rounds of qualifying, but unfortunately Alexis Galarneau is out.
You felt the need to do a Canadian content?
Yeah, I believe Stakusic was one of my breakout picks either last year or this year. Mm-hmm. And I like Alexis Galarneau.
So where is Mboko? What is she up to right now?
I don't know.
She just lost in the final of an ITF event to Mayar Sharif. She lost to Coco Gauff early in Rome, and then because that tournament is 2 weeks, she then went to the 250K in Parma and made it all the way to the final. I mean, she beat Parizas Diaz, she beat Begu as well at that tournament.
Oh, Jill Teichmann, blast from the past.
Lefty or righty?
I don't know. I don't care. I don't care, really, who's lefty or righty, okay?
She too is in qualifiers at the French Open. She goes tomorrow against Kraus.
All right. In Rome, she qualified and she beat Zucchini in the first round. Love that name.
You have more drugs.
Oh man, this one. The Romanian player Irina Feticau tests positive for a banned stimulant that she says came from an energy drink called Gorillalpha Yeti Juice. What?
That sounds like some dude bro created this.
I mean, I've said it once, I'll say it again. If you can't trust Gorillalpha Yeti Juice, who can you trust?
Wow.
If you can't go to Bella Noche's, where could you go?
If you can't eat your mother's tortellini, whose tortellini can you eat?
Exactly. To her credit, Irina did list the Yeti juice on her doping control form. She wasn't trying to hide that she was using this thing. And then she requested that a WADA-affiliated lab test the supplement, and this lab supported her story. They did find traces of this banned substance in the Gorillalpha. She was originally sanctioned for 12 months. She appeals. After the hearing, she was found to have no significant fault or negligence, and the suspension was reduced to 10 months instead of 12. It was noted by the tribunal, though, that there was distinctly elevated risk in using the Gorillalpha Yeti Juice supplement, which is not designed for use in professional sport. You don't say.
Well, is the rubbing cream that has the steroids with an X over it designed for use in professional sport?
Oh, you want to reopen this?
No, I'm just saying, you like other cases say that she has no significant fault or negligence, but her sanction is higher.
Well, they believed the story of that other guy.
I'm just saying that this is why people have struggles, grave doubts. They have doubts about the integrity of the system.
Well, yeah. And
in
that's
the application, in the fairness of it for everybody.
And that's why WADA was going hard on Sinner, because it's a strict liability offense, and they felt like, well, he's got to serve something because he still tested positive.
Tommy Paul told the world a little bit of an anecdote, a little bit of news that's been happening to him while he was in Rome. And no offense to that man, or maybe all offense to that man, it checks out that this would happen to him. That his beloved truck was repossessed.
While he was
abroad. Somebody showed up to his house and took possession of his truck because he missed a few payments, according to him. Now, does that really happen? You miss 2 payments and they take your car? Is it just 2 payments?
In the United States, I think it does.
Just 2 payments.
Well, I don't know how many payments.
He said it was a couple payments.
But for the grace of God go I, have never been
repossessed. You've been possessed.
Yet.
But not repossessed.
Right. Tommy, he is in a relationship with a very successful influencer, right? Or at least a scamfluencer. I guarantee she has an accountant who knows how to set up direct billing.
This is crazy to me.
It's funny. It's just not something I expected to hear this week. It's the most random.
You're a successful top 10 tennis player, and that $500 to $800 monthly payment can't be directly debited from your account. That can't be set up.
I think you said it already. It was pretty like par for the course for what you assumed about Mr. Paul.
And so he made some quip about, well, that's why I had to win a few rounds here to make sure I could pay for that.
We know you have money.
Hilarious. The US Open announced today that they have an $800 million plan to update the National Tennis Center, including, quote, modernizing Arthur Ashe Stadium and building a $250 million player performance center adjacent to Arthur Ashe Stadium. This after they had pumped $600 million into the center in like 2018.
Yeah.
From what I read. And they claim that this is all self-funded. They want you to know that there's no New York City tax dollars at play here. That there's no Long Island City, no Flushing local funds being used to fund this. It's all them. All of the honeydeuces that have been sold over the last 6 to 7 years have gone toward this investment.
You love to see that, at the very least. That, you know, this isn't asking Clark County, Ohio, or whatever county it is, to dump a lot of public funds into begging somebody to keep your tournament in Mason. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Daddy Navarro.
The U.S. Open...
Right? That was Navarro,
yes,
right?
Yes. The U.S. Open has a lot of revenue, and apparently they have cash on hand. They don't have $800 million in cash on hand, according to their income statements, but they have quite a bit, and they'll be okay.
There'll be a new grand entrance to Ashe. Are they talking about the entrance to the stadium or the entrance for the players coming out to the court?
No, the grand entrance to the stadium, supposedly. I mean, there are not many details out about this, but I assume it's kind of the entrance for spectators.
The article mentioned all these architects and consulting firms that they're working with to come up with plans, what have you, blah, blah, blah. There'll apparently be 2,000 new bowl level seats and 2 new levels of luxury boxes. Shocking.
Yeah, not 2 more boxes, 2 more levels of boxes.
See,
because the U.S. Open doesn't have enough.
When I skimmed it, I read 2 boxes. And I was like, why is this notable?
Right. Now, you're good at math. The seating capacity is going to remain at 24,000. So, can you tell me what's going on here? If they're adding 2,000 bowl-level seats, but we're remaining at 24,000 capacity, what exactly is happening here? The boxes are going to take out other seats that people pay for, probably pay less for.
They're not doing anything to the upper levels. That's still going to be a free-for-all, the wild, wild west.
Right.
Clearly, the peasants are not part of this plan. Steve Simon is retiring. We learned today because WTA tax filings were released. They hadn't been for the last 2 years because of, they begged for an extension because of the hurricane.
Oh, okay.
That Mr. Simon had been paid $1.3 to $1.4 million.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a CEO of an organization like that, it's not surprising. Sure.
But when your organization has its hand out, begging for handouts, essentially from unscrupulous places, I don't know. It just...
Unfortunately, nobody is going to do the job for less. Or nobody you want, right? You're not going to get anybody to do it for less. That's more like external pressures, I think. But remember when Steve's...
I don't know. The president gets paid $400,000.
That's the president.
The Pope gets paid that amount.
What?
Yeah. Francis declined the payment and it went to prisons and poor people.
Yeah. Because they take a vow of poverty. Well, I mean, priests do.
Well, it's unclear if Leo is going to abstain from those payments. But I'm just saying... It's not a given that CEOs of these companies should be making millions of dollars, especially when your organization is publicly struggling financially.
Well, and it's a nonprofit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember when Steve Simon's role changed, and I said they were making a soft landing for him before he was ousted. And you told me I was wrong.
I did?
Yes.
I don't recall that.
Okay. Well, I'll go find that.
Nobody go check the tape. I don't have much to say about this.
No.
It's just a matter of factual reporting.
Yeah. To be clear, Portia Archer is the CEO currently. Steve Simon moved into just the chairman role.
Last bit of news. Karolina Pliskova is undergoing another surgery on her ankle. She's 33 years old. You may wonder why you haven't seen or heard from her in a while. She last played at the US Open, had to go have ankle surgery, and... it has not gone well so far. She needs another one.
Oh, that's too bad. And her sister had a baby.
Yes. Do you remember her name?
I, of course, remember her name.
What's her name?
Christina.
Does she play left or right-handed?
Left. It's a law. You know, twins have to play left or right.
What's happening this week in the world of other professional sports
that's
relevant to this household?
Well, your favorite golfer won the PGA Championships, Scottie Scheffler.
How dare you? What's happening on Wednesday night?
No, you tempted fate because you texted me or were like, after day one, you said, I don't know any of these people in the top 10. But
That's
Scottie
not
was
true.
there.
I said I knew 8 or 9
Right.
of the top 20.
Oh, okay. But after all that, Scottie was there.
He threatened to choke it away, but he didn't, unfortunately.
Oh.
That distinction went to John Rahm.
Oh, well. The New York Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Why did it take you so long to get there?
Because I just wanted to get in the dig about Scheffler. The Knicks beat the Pistons and the Boston Celtics.
Correct. Both teams that they struggled to beat all year in the regular season.
Yeah, actually, we went to see them at home at MSG, and they lost to the Pistons pretty bad that day, back in December.
Well, Cat didn't play that day.
Oh, okay.
Or as you called him back then, KAT.
Yeah.
This is a rematch of last year's conference semifinals where Indiana beat a depleted New York Knicks team. I am hesitant to get too excited. I've been kind of watching these playoffs from a distance because honestly, I thought the Knicks would struggle mightily with Detroit. They did, but they were victorious. Mm-hmm. And then I did not expect them at all to beat Boston. So going up 2-0, coming back from 20 points in both games, that was crazy. That was crazy work.
Yeah.
And then they found themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals now for the first time since 1999.
Really?
Yes. When they unexpectedly made a run to the finals on the backs of the duo of...
Patrick Ewing?
No. Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell.
Oh, I would not have got that in a million years.
Also Larry Johnson. Because...
Was that a Spurs year?
Yes, they lost to the Spurs in the finals. And they were without Patrick Ewing, who suffered a season-ending injury.
Oh.
So their run to the finals
when did
that
he retire?
year.
Like
well, they
after
traded
that?
him the following year to Seattle.
Okay.
And then he had a stop with the Magic at one point, but he was never the same. Anyway.
Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price is back on the circuit. Recently ran 11:05 in 100 meter. She said, Paris Olympics were terrible, but you are not forcing me to retire on that bullshit.
Well, I'm hoping that it's just the first of the season rust, because that was not an impressive run. The start was not Shelly-esque, and she lost to 2 other Jamaicans, plus another person.
the Claytons.
I just want to see her have a good go of it in this last season of her career.
Yep. And the Braves reached 500.
The Atlanta baseball team.
Oh.
I don't say
we don't
that,
say that anymore. Okay.
I don't say that publicly, personally,
are they
anymore.
Are they deleting that racist chant
They're
that
not.
they do? Oh,
They're not. They're not doing any of those things.
Oh.
But for me to still be a fan, I have to make these concessions to myself.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the Atlanta baseball team is above 500 now. Thank you. Only 5 games behind the Mets. And any year that they claw back on the Mets and beat them, specifically if it's in tragic fashion for the Mets, it's just glorious to me. So I'm hoping I can experience that again. That's enough of etc. sporting stuff. We've got a couple days before the French Open begins. You're going to have to start writing down some themes, things to look out for at this tournament.
Oh, okay.
You got to do some work.
I feel like we've done this before.
Right, but it's a very, very short time.
Okay, it always is.
I feel like this is shorter than normal. My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Blue Sky at Tennis John.
I'm James at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's. Everything BodyServe related can be found at linktree.com/thebodyserve.
Thanks for listening.
Till next time.
Thank you very much.